Marcos stood quietly beside the luxury car, still unable to believe what had happened. 33 attempts had failed, yet he had refused to walk away. The rain continued falling outside his small workshop, but the tension that had filled the room was finally gone. Isabella, the wealthy businesswoman who owned the vehicle, looked at him differently now. She had arrived expecting a quick repair from an ordinary mechanic, but she had witnessed something much greater. Marcos had shown patience, determination, and humility when most people would have given up. As the engine continued running smoothly, Isabella wondered what kind of man could remain so calm after so many failures. Marcos wiped his hands with an old cloth and began putting away his tools. He did not ask Isabella for extra money or praise. Instead, he simply explained what had gone wrong and reminded her that the vehicle should be inspected again soon. His simple attitude surprised her. Isabella was accustomed to people trying to impress her because of her wealth, but Marcos seemed completely uninterested in her fortune. When she asked about his life, he hesitated before telling her that he was a widowed father raising his young daughter alone. His workshop had belonged to his father, and keeping it open was the only way he could provide for them. As Marcos continued speaking, Isabella became increasingly silent. He explained that every day brought another challenge. Sometimes there were enough customers to pay the bills, while other days he struggled to buy basic supplies. Still, he never allowed his daughter to see how worried he was. He wanted her to believe that tomorrow could always be better. Isabella listened carefully, realizing that the man standing before her had been carrying responsibilities far heavier than any mechanical problem. His story made her question everything she believed about success. She had accumulated enormous wealth, yet Marcos possessed something she rarely encountered, genuine peace with himself. The conversation continued long after the rain began to weaken. Marcos told Isabella that his father had taught him an important lesson: when something breaks, you should first understand why it failed before deciding that it cannot be repaired. Marcos believed the same principle applied to life. People could experience failure, loss, and disappointment, but those moments did not have to define their future. Isabella was deeply moved by his words. For years, she had measured success through companies, investments, and expensive possessions. Now she was beginning to understand that determination could be more valuable than money. She looked at the humble workshop and realized that its owner had given her more than a repaired car. Before leaving, Isabella asked Marcos how much he wanted for the repair. He gave her a modest price, explaining that he had only charged for the parts and the time required. She offered more, but he politely refused. He said he had fixed her car because it was his responsibility once he had agreed to help. That answer stayed with Isabella as she stepped into her vehicle. She looked back at the small workshop and saw Marcos returning to his tools as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But something had changed. Isabella had discovered a man whose greatest wealth was his character, and she knew their unexpected meeting was only the beginning. The next morning, Isabella returned to Marcos's workshop with an unexpected proposal. She had spent the entire night thinking about everything he had told her, especially his determination to keep moving forward despite his struggles. Instead of offering him money directly, she wanted to help him build a stronger future. She explained that she had connections with suppliers who could provide modern equipment at reasonable prices. Marcos listened carefully but remained hesitant. He did not want charity, and he feared that accepting help might make him feel indebted. Isabella assured him that she was not trying to buy his loyalty. She simply wanted to give his talent a fair opportunity. After several conversations, Marcos finally agreed to accept limited assistance. New diagnostic equipment arrived at the workshop, along with better tools that allowed him to handle more complicated vehicles. The transformation was immediate. Customers who had once passed by the small garage began returning with difficult mechanical problems. Marcos continued working with the same patience, but now he had equipment that matched his experience. His daughter noticed the difference too. For the first time, she saw her father returning home without the constant worry that the workshop might have to close. She understood that his perseverance had finally created a new opportunity for their family. As business improved, Marcos refused to keep the success only for himself. He hired two young men from the neighborhood who wanted to learn automotive repair but could not afford professional training. He taught them everything his father had taught him, including the importance of honesty. He told them that a mechanic should never invent a problem simply to make more money. A customer should leave knowing exactly what was wrong and exactly what had been repaired. Isabella watched this transformation with admiration. She realized that helping Marcos had not simply saved one struggling business. It had created opportunities for several other people. One afternoon, a major automobile company heard about the mechanic who had repaired a vehicle after 33 failed attempts. Representatives visited the workshop and were impressed by Marcos's knowledge. They offered him a prestigious position with excellent pay. Marcos was grateful, but he did not immediately accept. He asked whether he could continue operating his father's workshop while working with the company on special projects. The representatives agreed. Marcos had found a way to expand his career without abandoning the place where his journey had begun. His daughter was proud when she heard the news, and Isabella smiled because she knew he had earned every opportunity through persistence. Months later, Marcos's workshop looked completely different, but its heart remained the same. The old tools from his father still hung on the wall, reminding him where he had started. Isabella continued visiting, and their friendship grew stronger through mutual respect and shared experiences. Marcos had taught her that wealth could never replace character, while she had taught him that accepting a helping hand did not mean giving up his independence. Their lives had changed because one rainy evening brought a broken car to a humble workshop. The real miracle, however, was not the repaired engine. It was the lesson that 33 failures could become the beginning of an extraordinary new chapter.